We're going to shift a little bit to the next thing on our agenda today to talk about some of the legacy planning resources that we have at the foundation as well. You may recall that is how we began when I gave my introductory comments of our first endowment going back to 1821. What legacy planning will do is much like how that endowment plan or endowment fund is still paying income well into our future. We try to help our congregations create programs that will help their ministry also be funded well into the future. Your legacy plan in technical terms should be something that is above and beyond your annual stewardship budget. So it works with all the other stuff that I just mentioned in terms of annual stewardship, but your legacy plan is something that would include, but not just, would include your endowment or any type of endowment account that you create within your congregation. But it's so much more than that as well. You are technically encouraging your members to think of the concept in general. Truthfully, it may or may not always involve the church. We want our members to think about legacy planning just because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do about thinking about how you're going to plan for your estate. What does that look like? Have you clarified your family vision, provided for your spouse and dependents, other philanthropic goals that you may have? Always asking the question, where does your faith appear? And as you answer that faith question, it will certainly at times point you in the direction of, have I provided for my church? But when you present the endowment idea, the plan giving concepts to your congregation, it's not one of, again, a scarcity mentality of make sure they understand to give money to us. It's really a much broader concept, and that we're asking our members to think about the concept in general. We have resources. One is called an estate planning worksheet, for instance, that I often will tell folks very candidly, if you're not even open or even thinking about leaving something to the church, this is still a really good worksheet, because the estate planning worksheet will ask you to document policy numbers of your insurance, account information, organizations that are important to you, different things, power of attorney, living will directives, things that perhaps you have not thought about. It's a really sound worksheet to complete. It might lead you to leaving a gift to your congregation, but truthfully, it may not. But at the foundation, we just encourage the plan giving concept, because that is the way to plant the seed of, yes, if you would like to leave a gift to the church, let us tell you how you can do that. And so when you get to that point of the conversation of let us tell you how, we have lots of resources in that area. I mean, a ton. We have all kinds of things on our website, handouts, guides, brochures. One of the more popular meetings that I will have is just committee consultation. Hey, Yolanda, we used to have a legacy or endowment committee in our congregation. Now we don't. And so we would like to get one restarted, or it could be we have never had one. But we recognize that as we watch wealth transfer in our country, and we understand the aging of our denomination, that we should probably talk about this a little bit more. And those are two very sound reasons that I think every church should think about that. And so we will work with committees on sample ways to organize yourselves, ways to clarify your vision. Going back to my tagline from earlier, that we give to ministry and mission. So just saying we give to an endowment because endowments are great, that may not be an inspirational message for whatever organization that you're representing, whether it's the church or presbytery, et cetera. You need to be able to clarify why. What are we hoping to do with our endowment program, our plan giving program, our future vision? Why? And so a lot of the preliminary work is unpacking that why. What are we looking to do in the future? Sometimes that's scholarship. Sometimes it's important that there is some type of outreach presence in that. Often when I'm working with the committees, I will tell them your annual budget will often give you a hint on what's important to the church. If you remember my earlier comments about, again, that marriage of treasure and heart, if I look at your annual budget, I should learn a little bit about your heart. And as I learn a little bit about your heart, I should also learn a bit more about perhaps these would be things that we would like to endow, because these things are important to our members because we budget for them every year. Now, that may not be a one-to-one, but if you don't know where to get started, that's often a really good place. Hypothetically, if you're budgeting every year for educational resources for, say, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, etc., perhaps that's because educational resources, that particular thing is really important to your church. So how would that translate to an endowment program within your church? Should there be some fund for members that would like to continue endowment or endowing rather educational services? How would that look? How would the fund be set up? That's where you would get started. That's just one example, of course. That often translates to the word policy. You know, all good Presbyterians love policies, right? And so we have quite a few policy examples that we can share with you. I always use the disclaimer, they are real life examples, which means they're probably not going to be perfect, but they're going to give you ideas of what other churches have done to address this very topic. What many of my congregations will do, I'll send them 4 or 5, and they will merge and take a paragraph from one and a paragraph from the other and say, this one sounds just like me, etc. Rarely, though it does happen, rarely do I have a church that says, yeah, this one is exactly how we want to be. We're going to use this one exactly. And so you take those samples, you review them, you make a good policy, and the order that I have these bullet points is very significant because often folks want to jump right to, we've got to talk to our members about giving to the church and the legacy plan. Orlando, when can you come into a workshop? We generally will push back a little bit on that, because if you've not done the first couple of steps on here, if you do a workshop and you might have a member that says, yep, thank you, I really want to do this today. And then we get started and we realize that your church is not equipped or are unfamiliar of how to even receive a gift. If you've not had the conversation of how do we receive an unrestricted gift, how will it be invested, how will the spend formula look, etc. If a member wants to do that and we've not done that homework, it can create a bad experience, and you don't want that. As that old saying goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. You want that experience to go well. And so the importance of having the policy conversation before you do any educational event is to make sure you've done all of those what if scenarios. And if a member wants to leave a gift in a certain area of ministry, that you're equipped on how to do that. You're equipped to handle unrestricted, and you're equipped to handle non-restricted. And so that is something that we definitely encourage prior to doing, again, any large event. The donor support thing is also very significant as you are working with donors or members who would like to leave a gift. Sometimes committees need assistance with gift framing or gift illustrations. You may have a member that wants to do some type of recurring income, but is not exactly sure how to create it. And they may think about it being a trust, or they're not sure they want an endowment fund, etc. And it may or may not be something that the church feels comfortable with answering. If that is the case, we're more than happy to fill those questions and more than happy to talk to the donor if needed individually and say what is that you're trying to do. The foundation is, in that case, a conduit. It's providing ministry for that congregation. It's not for us. We're helping the member create a gift that will benefit the congregation. And in some cases, it's beyond, as I mentioned earlier, it might be another type of fund that is going well beyond their current congregation. But that's just what we do. It's not a way for us to say, hey, come invest in the Presbyterian Foundation. It's of how can we help you fund the ministries and mission and things that are important to you, and how can we help you find the best vehicle to do that? And so that's a lot of that donor support that we will do. Lastly, not listed here, we just encourage our congregations and our members and other parts of the denomination to do this messaging on a regular basis. Don't let it go dormant. In the example that I gave earlier, I get 2 calls about planned giving and endowment programs, how to start one and how to restart one. And the restart one comes because folks did all this work 5, 10, 15 years ago, and then stopped talking about it when session turned over, when one key committee member or so retired, left the church, whatever. The energy left, and then they find themselves 5, 10, 15 years later trying to restart a program that they once had. Keep that energy going. One of the things that we like to remind is a great way to do that. On the Presbyterian planning calendar, the first Sunday of May each year is Legacy Sunday. And so we encourage, if at least for that one time on Legacy Sunday, blame the denomination. As good Presbyterians, say we've got to talk about this because it's Legacy Sunday. And it's a great way for our churches at least to have something to hang on to, an anchor, to say this is when we talk about it. Now, you may find within your context that the first Sunday in May does not work. That's fine. Pick whatever date does work for your church. 3rd Sunday, 5th Sunday, June, July, August, whatever. The key is picking a date where you can say, this is the time we're going to focus on a planned giving message. Once it gets off the ground, it's a way that you can fold that into your annual stewardship as well as a reminder. But in the very beginning, it is generally more helpful to keep them separate. Shifting gears,